When you're riding off-road, then there's going to be different setup than if you are riding on the road. If you only ride on the road, then the bike setup is pretty good from when you buy it. You have to remember, adventure bikes, they are kind of jack of all trades, and they're not necessarily set up to be optimum for anything other than traveling on the road and going on road trips. That's why everything on the bike is set up for actually road riding. So what we're going to do is we're going to change some parameters and then make sure that the setup is good for going off-road, to make sure that you have the best capability for going off-road, because when you stand up and ride, it's completely different than when you're sitting down and ride. However, the off-road setting is completely usable on the road as well. However, if you only do road, then don't do this. But if you do off-road and gravel and all that stuff and stand up quite a bit on a bike, I highly recommend you to do it, because it will improve the control of your bike quite a lot. So first of all, we're going to start with a sag on the bike, because the sag is pretty important. I will just show you how I set it up. Okay, the sag on the rear of the bike is quite easy to set up. As you see now, we actually lifted the bike off the ground, so there's no static sag on the bike now. So what you do is I just put a bolt in there, and then I pull the string to a given point, which is, for example, you can put it here, which is easy to recall, there. Now, this point is no sag. Then you take down the bike, and then you measure it again. And the sag is, for road use, you want to have 10% of the suspension travel, which is, on this bike, is 200 millimeters in the back. So that means 20 millimeter static sag when there's no load on the bike. Off-road, you can have a little bit more. You can adjust it between 20 and 30 millimeters. So like 10 to 15% is actually pretty good, because then you have a little bit more to give when you are straightening out the potholes and stuff like that. Anyway, so what you do is when you take it there, then you check it again. When you have when your bike is not on the center stand or anything like that, and then you measure this distance here, and if this distance here is 20 to 30 millimeters on this bike, then it's pretty good. Then you can sit on the bike and you can do the same again, and then you're supposed to have like 60 to 70 millimeter. And if not, you adjust it with a preload. When I set up the rear shock, I showed you how you do the clickers on the back, and I also did it with the forks in front. So if you want to look at how you set the clickers on this particular bike, then you can look at that movie. On the forks, it's easy, because I always have it permanently installed, and that is just a zip tie. You pull it all the way up, and you put the bike off the stand, and then you take it up again, and then you measure the distance and do the same as the back. Here is 210 millimeters, so between 20 to 30 millimeters in front here is great as well. And the same when you load it, you can actually also see where it ends up. And then you just put it on the bottom, and you're done. That's how you find the sag and set the sag. The sag is preload. On this particular bike, I can set the preload, because I have changed the caps on the top. You can see how I did that on the video, for the fork video I made. And then you can see how I put that in and change the springs and everything. Now, what is important is that the spring rate is correct on the bike anyway. So if your bike is not set up correctly on the spring, I highly suggest you do that, because the springs are too soft on many bikes. Not all, but many bikes. You can do that by looking at the video I made on how to calculate the correct spring rate on your bike. And then changing springs is actually pretty cheap and easy to do for anyone. So that's not a big issue. I highly recommend these gaiters with the zip And then you can, I highly recommend you to do the gaiters with the zip-ups, because then you can put this on, the neoprens, and you don't get all the dust and crap like that, and then you spare the ceilings pretty good. So that's good setup of the suspension. So now you know how to measure it, how to easily measure it, and the distance. And the clickers, you can look at another video, and if you are unsure about it, then you can send me a PM or ask me in the comment field, and then I will do my best to try to explain the setup I use. But yeah, that's it. Then a lot of people ask me about the tires, but most bikes come with tires that are pretty okay on nice gravel. These are actually the stock tires on the Yamaha Tenere. And as you can see, this bike has done quite a lot of everything with these tires. They are not optimum on mud and stuff like that. And but you don't have to change it immediately. Your skill level makes you go faster, and when you go faster, these tires are not good enough on really loose stuff. Then you need better tires. The tires I changed to, these are my favorite 50/50 tires, which is Maita's. It's called EO7 Plus. I think they changed name, but you can still find them with that name. As you can see on the pattern, it's a way better pattern for going off-road. And they last quite a while, and they are really good 50/50 tires. Don't be unrealistic and think it's a pure off-road tire, but it's a good 50/50 tire. They can have the same speed rating as the original tires. So you can go on Autobahn in high speed with them. They are really, really good and grippy, and yeah, they work really good off-road and for gravel roads and for roads also actually. They are really good. They are 50/50 tire. The Scorpions from Pirelli is better on the road. They are better grippy on the road, on wet and all that. But these ones are actually fine, and these ones are much better than the Pirelli when you go off-road with a bike. So this is my from May and out the season. I ride with these tires, and I go everywhere with them. And there are tires with more grip. But then you start losing mileage, and you also start losing grip on the tarmac, and you start losing speed. So, you know, the speed rating, because these ones are enduro trail tires. Yeah, Maita's EO7 Plus. They're not too expensive. You can get them anywhere in Europe. They're fine. They're really, really good. Good in Norway. Good for whatever I do. So, and I do some actually pretty gnarly stuff, as you can see on the bike. It gets a lot of fun. Okay, so after we have looked at the suspension, I usually go to take a look at the controls on the bike. And the controls on the bike, you have the rear brake. If you look at it from stock, normally the rear brake sits down here on your bike. And that is pretty crap when you are standing up on the bike. Because when you're standing up, to reach it is quite hard actually. And there's a lot of people who complain about the rear brake, especially on the Tenere. I don't have a big problem with it. Actually, you see here, when you adjust it on the screw here until you have brake. It will brake now when it's in line with the foot peg. Then you have a very good control on the rear brake. When you're standing up and everything, you can really easily control the rear brake. So what you need to do, because in stock, when you buy it, it sits probably down here, which is horrible because it also moves a little bit before it starts braking. And even when you go on the road, it feels weak and spongy and bad, and that's because it's low. Now, when I move it up, so it will brake here, when you actually are in line with the foot peg, it actually feels really good. When you stand up, you have good control with the brake and everything. I don't see any need to change the you know, the brake fix and all that stuff people are talking about. I have no issues with it now when I adjusted it correctly. So now it's really good when I stand, because when I stand up, I stand like this with my foot, and then I can easily control the brake when I stand. No problem whatsoever. And this is important because the rear brake is what you use a lot when you go off-road. You take off the ABS and then you use the rear brake to stop the to keep the bike straight when you brake. Now we move over to the gear lever, and again, from stock it normally sits pretty much down there, and that's pretty bad when you stand up and you are trying to reach under and gear up or down when you're standing up. When you're sitting down, you actually sit like this, and then it's just easy to move up and down here because your feet are normally like this. When you stand up, your feet are normally like this, so here I can gear down, here I can gear up, no problem. So that's why you need to move it up. And how far up? Well, I like to keep it pretty much there. Adjust it all the way up there. And some people think it really sucks when you go on the road with this, but it's actually pretty good. It's not a big stress point to do that. And when you do that, then it's easy to move it up and down when you stand up on a bike compared to riding, because then it sits down, which is natural. Because when you see a racing bike, it's down because your feet are like this when you're sitting on a bike, tilted forward, and then it's easy to reach it. On this bike, you see here, the foot pegs are quite wide and big anyway, so they are not particularly made for going on the road, but they are good, they work fine. Okay, so that's the second control you need to set up correctly to have a good control when you're riding on gravel and off-road. Now we are talking about the steering, and the steering, actually the most neutral way to have the handlebars is actually when you look at this angle here on the forks, and then you look at the angle on this one itself, and it's supposed to be pretty much the same angle up. And if it is, it's very neutral to ride. If you loosen the clamps and then twist it back, it will be easier to ride on highway, but worse to go off-road with, because it will be more sluggish, and yeah, it will not be that good off-road. And if you put it the other way, it will be nervous, very nervous when you go on the road, and yeah, even when you go off-road. And plus, when you sit down, you have to stretch your arms really far to reach the handlebars, so that's not a good solution. So you adjust the handlebars so there are. Yeah, some people like to keep them completely straight with the ground under. I like to keep them a little bit below, because when I stand up, it's very easy for me to reach. And as you see, I have shorty levers, and I highly recommend you to have shorty levers. But if you do, especially on this bike, then you need to, in my opinion, you need to have the one finger clutch modification, because now I can actually sit here and work with the clutch easily. And when I stand up, I still have very good grip on it. And that's the main thing. Some people put them too low because they find it comfortable, or too high up. And then when they are too high up, often when you buy it from the shop, it's up here. And if you try to stand up on the bike and clutch, because what you have to do is on tarmac, or I would say on tarmac, just find a parking lot, big parking lot, something like that. Go there, and then as the bike is now, stand up and try to gear it up first, second, third, and then gear it down again. Keep it up and down. Ease it up on the clutch, ease it down, brake. Do all these things when you stand up. Don't sit down when you gear and all that. And if you find it awkward, it is because the settings are not good. So this is how I set up the bike for going gravel and off-road and all that. And yeah, it works really good, even if you... And also I ride it like this, even when I go on the tarmac, because it works really good, the setting on this bike. And people I know who go on the same kind of bikes, adventure bikes, they have found these settings to be really, really good. They work really good on the bike. And yeah, you see here. So anyways, that's the setting for I have on off-road and gravel road. And I also use this exact same setup when I go on the road. It's a perfectly fine setting for adventure bikes. If you do go off-road and all that stuff, because if you only sit on the tarmac and you are happy with sitting down on the bike all the time, then I think you could just ride it as it comes from the shop, then no problem. It is if you do more of the stuff this bike can do, because it's not set up to do it. It's set up for tarmac. Anyway, the reason why I do all these videos and all that stuff is because I've been riding since I was a little kid, and done a lot of riding all over the place and off-road in crazy places and road racing and God knows what. And many people have asked me, hey, why don't you make some videos and share, because I know a lot of trips and tours and all this stuff and have a lot of fun doing it. And I have many people come to me winter time and stuff, and I show them how to fix things. And I try to learn a lot of stuff, new stuff together with them, and if it's something I don't know and all that. And yeah, it's a learning experience. And they said, why don't you do this on videos and share with other people? And I'm not 100% comfortable doing this because it's completely new to me. I'm not a limelight kind of guy, but I hope people appreciate what I'm doing. And please like and subscribe if you do, and if you find it useful. Give me a comment, ask me anything. If you wonder something about this bike, some gear or whatever, just ask me and I'll answer as good as I can. And I really appreciate it, because then I know it's not just a wild idea in my. Some people are trying to trick me into doing stuff I'm not comfortable with, So it would be nice to know. Yeah, that's pretty much it. So so thank you so much for watching, and all the guys and girls who have been actually subscribing and liking and all that. Thank you very, very much. I really, really appreciate it. It has given me some acknowledgement that I should continue doing it, because sometimes you sit there wondering, should I do this at all? What's the point? And that makes it actually a lot of fun, and you want to do more, because I think you get the impression that people appreciate it, and that's really, really good. So, and then thank you. Have a fantastic time. Set up your bike and try it on tarmac and all that. And for if somebody who live in the Stavanger area and they want to go on gravel trips with me, or just go and practice, I have a beautiful practice place. We can go and practice, on a very safe surface with gravel, and can spin and try all these things. I'm happy to do that. Just let me know and we can do it. I don't charge anything for it, because I find it fun to do. Yeah, take care and have fun.